This is Nanking today. A bustling city full of life and commerce. 70 years ago, however, it was a city on the brink. About to become the scene of mass atrocities, the speed and scale of which remain beyond understanding.
I am an eyewitness of the massacre. I was only 7 or 8 years old. Now I am 78. It has been a very difficult 7 decades.
Japan invaded China on the 7th of July 1937. City after city fell to the invaders in rapid succession, until on the 13th of August they reached Shanghai. The Japanese High Command expected Shanghai to fall within days or weeks, but the battle took 3 months. By the time Shanghai fell, the Japanese Imperial Army was looking to avenge its humiliation at the hands of a people that its soldiers had been taught to regard as subhuman. As Chinese forces retreated to Nanking in chaos, bringing with them accounts of Japanese atrocities, bombing raids on the city intensified. Anyone who could afford to travel or find a means to leave fled the doomed city. Among them were all but a handful of its foreign residents.
This compound here is the home of John Rabe.
The house of John Rabe, head of the Seamen's Office and head of the Nazi Party in Nanking. As other foreigners abandoned Nanking to its fate, Rabe and a little more than a dozen associates, mainly Germans and Americans, prepared to do everything that they could to protect Chinese civilians from the brutality of the Japanese army. On the 22nd of November, they formed the International Committee for the Nanking Safety Zone. Independently declaring a 2-square-mile area of Nanking a demilitarized civilian protection zone, they marked it out with Red Cross flags. 2 days later, Rabe wrote to Hitler, calling on the Führer for support. He was met with silence. As the Japanese closed in on Nanking, the courage, professionalism, and human endurance of the self-appointed International Committee was about to be tested to the limit. The Zhenghua Gate, an imposing fortification guarding the southern approach to Nanking. Following its breach by Japanese forces in the early hours of the 13th of December 1937, the assault on captured prisoners of war and Chinese civilians within the city was immediate, ferocious, and intense.
It was early on the morning of December 13th, 1937. My father opened the door to the Japanese soldiers. Immediately he was killed. As soon as they entered the house, they dragged my mother from under the table and took my younger sister, 1 year old, and threw her out into the yard. She just died. They stripped my mother and raped her right there. Ni, the mother of the other family, was holding her 2 children under the table, and they tried to drag her out. They were holding onto the leg of the table. They couldn't get the kids and the woman, so they just beat the kids to death and dragged her out.